Sup, cousin? Welcome to CoCo Conjure. Here we talk about all things hoodoo, folklore, and spiritual journeys. My goal is to give foundation to the novice and inspiration to the advanced practitioner. If you have not guessed already, my name is CoCo. Cousin, this episode is brought to you by the void. Sit in stillness long enough and the void will stare back. Before you find a comfortable seated position for your meditations, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you are listening. If you would like to tell me about your adventures in the void, be sure to leave a comment on YouTube or send me an email at cococonjure@gmail.com. That's CoCoConjure@gmail.com. So, today's episode is a spiritual chat. So I'm just going to talk to you for like 30-40 minutes or so about whatever's been on my mind lately. And you know what's been on my mind the most, cousin, as we settle into these colder months and things start to look a little more bleak and the internet is freaking out about the rapture, which I guess dates this a little bit. The timing of this recording a little bit, but you know what's been on my mind? Death has been on my mind. And I understand, cousin, if you don't want to ponder death. The idea of not existing is unsettling, to say the least. I think it's unsettling because we've only ever known existence. We've only ever known racing thoughts and actions and progression and movement. We fight every day, some of us harder than others, to just stay alive. And that can be, the struggle to secure food. It could be the struggle to secure housing. It could be, the more privileged struggle of just trying to maintain your mind and your health. That could be the struggle to live loudly and to make sure we don't dim ourselves. Life is always ever present and always on our mind. It is the everything in which we exist. So when we really stop to think about what death is, what death will do to us, and what it's like to be left behind, what it's like to lose the ones we love the most to the nothing, it can make us a little cagey. So, we can't really wrap our minds around death. So facing death becomes hard. And as much as folks would like to say they know what happens when we die, they don't. They just don't. For the longest time, I thought religion was a response to this fear of death and a way that we socially, collectively try to find like an explanation to what happens to us when we die. Don't worry about death because you'll be in heaven and finally live in joy and peace and be rewarded for living righteously and believing the right thing and believing the right way. Focus on living a good life and generating good karma so that when you do die, you'll reincarnate with good fruits. Or if you work hard enough, you'll get off the wheel of life completely and you won't reincarnate at all because nirvana is within your grasp. These are all ways that we've tried to explain death, explain an afterlife as we face down the fear of no longer existing as we exist right now. Now I think organized religion serves more of a function than just explaining, giving comfort to the idea of what happens to us when we die. But there is no doubt in my mind that the explanations of death and afterlife, they do provide comfort when we try to face the unknown. It gives us a sense of control because what we believe dictates what happens to us when we no longer exist, when we no longer experience life in the human forms that we are now. But there's a catch, as things often are with the human experience. We always go a little too far, right? The issue arises when we lean too heavily on our religious beliefs to tell us what happens when we die and what our afterlife will look like and the best ways to, to secure a good death, is that some of us start to live almost exclusively for our death. Specifically, they live to die right. They live to die righteously. That's what all this rapture stuff feels like to me. Cousin, we've been counting down the days till the return of Christ for like a while now, like 2,000 years or so, right? We've been waiting. The rapture is in no way biblical, mind you. I mean, you could use the Bible to spin a case for the rapture, the idea that you'll just get sucked out of your human existence and into heaven. But I could use the Bible to spin a case against it. And it's proven that it's a religious concept that occurred long after the death of Jesus and long after the Bible was canonized. We're talking, this came about in like the 1800s, right? I'll give you a link to a lesson about that. But every so often, folks will look at the social structures and devastations we've wreaked on this planet, and they say the end times are nigh. And every time you have folks predicting the date of Christ's return or the day God will take them away from the madness that we share on planet Earth, they live in this, you'll get people who live in this religious fervor, and they start to act like someone who is suicidal. These people who are rapture minded, they give away their things. They ask the gay Satanist, witchy neighbor, or their younger cousin who had a baby out of wedlock to watch over their pets. They prepare, a pantry of food. They give them codes to their home because, that neighbor and cousin isn't going to make it the first go round of the rapture. That neighbor cousin was worried a little too much about what they thought was right instead of doing what God commanded. So that neighbor cousin indulged too much in what life has to offer and followed the temptations that Satan threw at them. I mean, they wore pants. They had sex before marriage. They got tattoos. They're a little too hungover on Saturday to sit in the pew on Sunday. So all those neighbor cousins left behind can help the righteous tie up loose ends. You hear my sarcasm, but like, this is real deal. Like, this is how people are approaching the rapture. Not only is this line of thinking like the least humble or admirable, but tying up loose ends and giving things away to people you think could utilize your stuff is what people do when they take their own lives. The whole rapture thing feels like suicide by divine intervention to me. And what's worse, I think what's absolutely worse is that these people, they stop living in the present. And they stop living in a present for a goalpost that keeps moving. The rapture has happened no less than 10 times in my lifetime, right? So, like, wouldn't it be easier to just live? Just live in faith as best you can while loving your neighbor as best you can. And then knowing that when the time comes, you did all the things you were supposed to do. You don't have to worry about the end because you're living well. You're experiencing life, Apparently not. Apparently that's too much to ask. Because the flip side of this phenomena of living to die righteously is thinking that we're supposed to live forever. Y'all, Big Sis, y'all know Big Sis. She's been around for a while. Well, Big Sis is a healthcare worker by trade, and she's been doing it for like almost as long as I've been alive at this point. And at least 3 times a month, she's telling me about children holding on to parents who are actively dying. And this is sad. That's got to be tough, seeing the people you love the most, who were damn near superhuman all your life, start to slip away into the nothingness that is death. So, what do the children do when they see their loved ones dying? They want feeding tubes, and they worry over medications not being correct. And they get upset because their parents aren't doing basic human functions like pooping or blinking. Not because, maintaining these basic human functions and making sure the medications are right is what's best for mom or dad, but because it means that they can hold out for a hope, hold out for this miracle, instead of, facing the truth that death is sitting right there next to their loved one, holding their hand, pulling them into the nothing. And every time Big Sis and I talk about, these types of situations, as sad as it is, we both are like, girl, get me, if this happens to me, please just get me the strongest medical grade heroin you can get your hands on. Throw on some cash money for the 99 and the 2000s. Make sure I am comfortable. Do not hold out for a miracle if death is that close to me. I pray, I'm begging, just don't let me suffer. Don't torture me, because you can't let me go. Cause sis, I'm telling you right now, I'm trying to slip out. I'm trying to go. Like, I am so far gone that holding on to human existence doesn't even sound like the best idea. Morbid, I know, but we had those conversations, and I gotta tell you, I hope that I'm strong enough, because, my grandma's up there. She'll be 90 soon, and my mom is getting older, and my mom is the toughest lady I know. And I know that one day they won't be here with me, assuming I don't go first. But like, I know that one day they won't be here with me, and I know I will be devastated, completely devastated. But I'm not interested in making people linger, like, making people hold on to life when everything about them, physically, mentally, scientifically, is slipping out the door, slipping onto the next plane, slipping into the nothing. This is why I'm death positive. I say that to people and they automatically assume that means that, like, if somebody is laid up and they getting ready to, like, they're slipping off, into death is taking them actively, then just go ahead and put the pillow over their face and smother them. No, I'm not talking about that. No. Death positive means I acknowledge that death is the inevitable outcome to the horror and the honor of being alive. So we need to release the taboo around death. We don't need to spiritually bypass it or glorify it. Like, let's talk about, putting money aside for those funeral arrangements. Let's make that living will as well as the stock standard will, so that when our loved ones are facing our deaths, they won't have to make grief-ridden choices. I know that conversation I just described to you about, between me and my sister sounds morbid, but like, I know, because we've had that conversation. Now I know that if there's no hope left, if death is actively gripping her tight, that she doesn't want me to plug her in and put the tube down the throat and do whatever. She wants me to, let her go with dignity and in peace. And, my best friend knows that I believe by the altar boys playing at my funeral. You know what I mean? Like, that I want my funeral to be, a celebration of my life instead of people sitting around crying. I know that my mother wants to be cremated. She said it to me often. Listen, don't do all this burial stuff. Don't put me in the ground, cremate me. I know that my sister wants to be buried raw. Right? Like, so all I have to do when I'm in the midst of my grief is just remember the conversations we had and honor their wishes. We talked about it. I just have to do what they want. And in the case of my mom and my grandma, I just got to follow what the paper says because they already wrote it down. They wrote it down, got it notarized. Do this, right? It takes the burden off of the person still alive. It allows us to honor our new ancestor, to honor them, to remember them fondly, to deal with our own grief, try to adjust to not having them with us anymore. And it takes big choices off of our plates. So we're not making those choices under emotional distress. Because the fact remains, cousin, us in this form that we are right now, we were not meant to live forever. Our bodies break down, our minds start to lose function, and our spirits eventually start to slip away. That also means we don't have to live for a righteous death, because regardless of what we believe may happen in an afterlife, none of us really know. Like, we don't know it for a fact. The only thing we hold on to are spiritual truths. Some of us believe in reincarnation. Some of us believe that the righteous get to electric slide in a never-ending party with the one true God. Or maybe you're like me and you believe that you are just, you just slide into the peace that is the nothing, that is the void. But like, you don't have to live for your afterlife. You just have to live in faith. Regardless of how we live, how much we emphasize our afterlife, how much we're prepared for our death or the death of our loved ones, death is coming for us indiscriminately. And we don't know when our time is up. So even with our beliefs and our moral codes and living in faith, we don't have to rush our deaths. And we should not be afraid to die. Okay, cousin, thank you so much. If you made it this far, I thank you for staying with me. I know this topic can make some people upset because of the faith and the spiritual beliefs we hold around death. Some things can come up. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for staying with me. Now we're going to enter that portion of the podcast where I scour the internet and I find some conversations, some questions that are happening. And I do my best to answer the question or, add a little something to the conversation. So our first topic comes from the R Witch Reddit board. And it says, can I work with Orpheus to get closer to my dead husband? Hey guys, I made a post about a week back about my sweet witchy husband who died. Well, I've been looking into witchcraft a lot more and have seen people working with deities. A lot of them are Greek gods. I love Greek mythology and I'm wondering, has anyone worked with Orpheus? He was always my favorite because he reminds me of my husband. If anyone has any insight on if this is fictional or real, or if anyone worked with him, please tell me. Okay, so friend, I'm going to say this with a lot of love. First of all, I'm really sorry that you've lost your husband. They probably will never listen to this podcast, but if they do, I'm very sorry that you lost your husband, and my heart goes out to you in your time of grief. I'm going to approach this two ways. One, I'm going to approach this with mythology. So first of all, Orpheus he can be described as a demigod. They say that he's the son of Morbius and one of the muses. So I guess he could be a demigod of sorts. However, he is not a psychopomp. He's someone that traveled into the underworld to get his love back. But he himself is not a psychopomp. He's not a deity of death. right? So if you want to stay within the Greek mythology, you would want to pray to Hades, pray to Persephone, um, maybe give offering to Hermes or Mercury, as that god goes back and forth between life and death, varying souls. So does Thanatos. He does the same thing. And Hecate presides. Well, she presides over a very specific kind of death, right? Like she's the keeper of very specific types of souls. But you want to go to the deities that are actual like death deities, or they interact with the dead spirits often. In our ATRs and hoodoo, there's a whole bunch that you could work with, but when it comes to like Loa traditions or Orisha traditions, I would see a priest or priestess or whatever they're called to have that conversation before you start reaching out to people. Because you start reaching out to people and you don't know what you're inviting back, or if you're doing it in a way to get the best response. So you want to go to someone who's well versed in the Loa or Orisha traditions. Or if you just straight up hoodoo like myself, you can just set up a memorial for them in your home and know that they are with you. Like know that even if you can't contact them spiritually, because you really should give the newly deceased time to like rest. No matter what you believe, most people are like, let them rest for a second before you start asking questions. But there's nothing wrong with setting up a memorial in your home and telling stories about them, holding on to their favorite things, putting that on the memorial altar, things like that to help you out, and lighting a white candle in their memory. I'm a firm believer that I don't believe in ancestors the way that most people do. Like it's a dead spirit right next to you, holding your hand, talking to you. I think that it's a little more complicated than that. Because I believe in nothing, that when you die, you die. Like you go into the nothing, you go back into the fabric of the universe. But I do think that one of the best ways to keep people with us when they pass is to keep their memory with us. To keep talking about them, to keep their stories alive, to remember them fondly, to leave that, offering, go through the ritual of offering or setting up that memorial shrine. So that way you keep the residual of what they were, the imprint of what they left on this earth with you. Okay, next one. This one is also from Reddit. This is from the Folk Magic board. It says, communing with spirits. I'm pretty new to this, but over the past week, I've had experiences that have made me feel like something or someone is trying to tell me something. I tried scrying for the first time tonight, and I saw a human figure with black feathered wings. His face kept shifting, so I couldn't exactly make out what it looked like, but does this sound familiar to anyone? I'm not sure how to identify him or interpret what he's trying to say, so if anyone has any advice, please let me know. I cannot say for sure that I know what spirit this is that is contacting you. I can only speak to my own experiences, and the last time I met something like that, it was in a dream, and I asked it to come and take the decay away from me, the things that were holding me back, the things that were dying inside of me. I asked it to remove it from me, and I called on the spirit of death to do that. And what you're describing is pretty close to what I came across. I didn't see black wings, like black feathered wings, but it was a human figure, black cloak, like it was covered in black. It was black. It was like the inkiness of nothing. And I knew that I didn't dare look at its face like you did more than me. I didn't dare look at it in the face, uh, because I knew that if I looked up or if I took its hand, that I was going to do more than just cut out the decay of my spirit. Like, it was going to do more than remove what no longer served. It was going to just take me, slide me out into the nothing. So I would say that when you're in a situation like this and you're communing with spirits, and I do believe in spirits. I know I said I don't believe in ancestors the same way, but I do believe in spirits. I do believe that there are things, human-esque things, I don't know, that are inhabiting this world with us, like that is a part of the chaos of life and death. Is things that we generate, or things that are just we're just here as a part of making the unseen world work. I do believe in spirits. So when communing with them, I would ask yourself, what kind of day did you have? What things were you doing before this thing came to you? And sometimes if you're good at scrying, maybe with tarot reading, you can ask it to speak with you. It might not be death. It might just be, a spirit in your court, a guardian spirit of sorts that's trying to let you know that it's there, trying to help you out. I don't know, but you have to divine to do so. So if scrying is not working, I would try another form of divination, and I would also, try to communicate with it, try to speak to it, and ask for signs, like something that wouldn't normally happen. Like if you're here for, I don't know, if you have something important to tell me, let me see a blackbird within the next week, right? Or you can start with tarot cards or something that's a little more formulaic, so you can start to get answers. Okay, in a rare move, I have more than 2 questions this time. So the next 2 are coming from Uncle Leroy's Hoodoo Corner on Facebook. The first one says, my little cousin just passed last night, and I wanted to know what kind of work that I can do. Should I get some graveyard dirt? I have not divined, however, I am intuitive. Okay. So listen, I would remember where they're buried, but I would not get graveyard dirt. And not right away anyway. But that's me. So she's not a friend, old coworkers who kind of helped me get started. I've talked about her before. She collected graveyard dirt when her mother died, but that's her mom, and she had a good relationship with her, and her mother was, spiritually, her and her mother were spiritually on the same page. So she used that graveyard dirt for blessing, to buy a home, to, whatever she needed. She used it for blessing. So if you have that kind of relationship with your cousin, and your cousin died in a way that wasn't tragic, like absolutely when I say tragic, I mean, I had a cousin who died of an overdose on methadone. He took so much methadone and he drank so much alcohol that the inside of his body like froze, right? That's some heavy trauma. And knowing that, I would not collect his graveyard dirt right away. I wouldn't do that, because I believe that just like I believe that there's residuals of a person's essence when we remember them and we honor their memory, I also think that there's a residual of that person in the dirt when they're buried or when they're cremated. Like there's a residual of them in that, and I wouldn't want to hold that. Like my cousin died so horrifically, I wouldn't want that in my house. But that's me. So if intuitively you feel like you're at the gravesite and intuitively you feel like you want to take some graveyard dirt, okay. I am not one to take graveyard dirt for the sake of doing it. And if you're doing it because you think you need it to honor them, know that you do not. You could get a piece of their clothing. You could go through old photos. You could write their name in the family Bible. You could write their name in your field journal. Like, you can do all sorts of things to remember them. You don't need graveyard dirt to honor them. And again, when someone is newly passed away, it's customary to honor without asking for anything in return. So, you light that white candle. You allow them time to transition. Some people would even say that you don't even put them on your ancestor altar yet. Like, you have to wait a year before you can even do that. But at this point, it's more about honoring them, honoring their life, than it is about inducting them into your ancestor pantheon. Because one of the things we tend to do as hoodoos, as spiritual people, is we demand a lot of those who passed away. We expect them to protect us and to provide for us and, all sorts of things. And we forget that they lived already. They at least to me, like, they did all of that stuff. Like, they lived already. They need a break. Okay, so the last question comes from Uncle Leroy's Hoodoo Corner. This is the last one, I promise. And it says, I was told that my home was under demonic attack. Okay. What is the best way to cleanse not only my home, but my children? I'm drained. I just experienced 2 deaths back to back in my family, and speaking to my Babalawo, he's saying that he sees death for me. I'm not scared, just tired. Okay. There are some things you can do to cleanse if you feel you need to, though honestly it sounds more like you need to take the time to rest and rejuvenate your spirit. And I normally I would go into detail about some things you can do to cleanse, but cousin, I gotta tell you, this cousin again will probably never hear this. So for anyone who is listening to this, I want you to hear me when I say that one of the times someone will take advantage of you, take real advantage of you, is when you are in grief. Grief, although a necessary process in order to heal spiritually and allow ourselves time to figure out how to function without the person we love next to us. Grief around death leaves you as a open target to spiritual scammers. If this person spoke to a Babalawo, I don't think I said that right, but I did my best. But if they spoke to them, which is an authority figure in Orisha tradition, I think, then that person would tell you how to cleanse yourself and your home and your children. They wouldn't just scare you by saying something like, he sees death for me, like death is coming for you. He wouldn't drain you by putting this on you without giving you an answer on how to help you. You wouldn't have to come to a Facebook page in order to do this, in order to find clarity and to find restoration for your spirit. He would just tell you. But for the easy payment of $5.99, or $444 or 10,010, or sorry, 1,010. He can provide you with the necessary things. This is someone taking advantage of your grief. They see that you are spiritually depleted. They see that you are physically in a bad place, mentally in a hard, like mentally covered in grief, and they are taking advantage of you. When death occurs, the vultures come. Okay, cousin. Thank you so much for staying with me as long as you have. I appreciate you for sticking around. I know this topic was not the easiest to tackle, to listen to, maybe. But before we get out of here, cousin, I want to let you know that you deserve the world. It's going to feel weird, but I encourage you to be death positive. Have the conversation with your loved ones. Know how, like, what they would like, what their end of life care should look like. Talk to them about what you would like your end of life care to be as well. And even though death is coming for all of us, I swear it's going to come regardless of whether we want it to or not. That does not mean that we should stop living. That does not mean that we live for our afterlife. We need to take advantage of this once in a lifetime ride on Mother Earth, baby. We have to take advantage of it. And it's going to be a little rough, but we don't need to glorify our death. Instead, I want you to call for your blessings when things get a little hard. Because when you call for your blessings, cousin, they will come to you. I'll see you guys next time.